Oh, man, the Jay Crawford news. I had to go through it again. What's up with that?
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zach Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Hopped on Locked On Ole Miss with Stephen Willis, a good friend of mine. Obviously, Ole Miss landed Jay Crawford. He wanted my thoughts on that. I shared those thoughts. We also talk about when Auburn heads to Oxford in 2026 and general portal happening. So all that and more coming up on today's edition of Locked On Auburn and Locked On Ole Miss, a crossover. Here's that conversation.
Welcome to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast and the Locked On Auburn podcast. We are here to entertain you, and thank you very much for making the Locked On Podcast Network the number one sports podcast network in the entire country. Remember, we're free and available on all the podcast channels and YouTube. And a special hello to all the insiders and everydayers who make the show what it is. This is your team every day. Today's episode is going to be brought to you by Rougiette. If you've been thinking about taking the next step, now is the time. Head to Rougiette.com/LockedOnCollege to get 15% off your order for a limited time only. Rougiette ready, feel present, feel confident, feel ready. Zach, man, we finally get to have a reason to talk to each other. How you doing, buddy?
Good. Yeah, the reason Ole Miss fans should be very excited about, and Auburn fans have kind of already gone through our portion of those.
Yes, and what he's talking about is Ole Miss has, according to Zach Blackerby, the most underrated corner in college football, transferring to the Ole Miss Rebels in Jay Crawford. I'm excited about this because Ole Miss had Antonio Kite, and he surprised. He was a true number one type cornerback. And you pair him on one side, you put Jay Crawford on the other. I think you got a pretty intimidating lineup next season.
Yeah, two former Auburn guys. It's kind of crazy. Yeah, Jay Crawford is the guy that, I mean, folks who watch Locked On Auburn know how high I was on Jay Crawford. Totally crashed out on a live reaction show when news broke that he was planning to enter the portal. But yeah, I mean, what you said, I believe to absolutely be true. I think Jay Crawford is one of the most overlooked and most underrated corners, football players in college football. I think Ole Miss fans should be elated by the type player that they have added to their defensive backfield.
I'm personally excited because if you look at the beginning of the transfer portal windows going on, Ole Miss is off and running for our end of things. So obviously, right. Ole Miss is spending this year because it isn't just like little slappies. It's really good players. And it appears from where I'm sitting that Ole Miss is attacking the Auburn defense, the players that are going in, the Florida defense, and they're going to attack the LSU team. All of the coaching changes within the conference, they're going to try and work that magic.
Yeah. And obviously those are going to be the rosters that are most vulnerable. And, we'll see exactly what happens with that. And look, I think the timing of Ole Miss winning these playoff games kind of potentially kept Ole Miss out of being in that situation because y'all's season obviously is still going on. So, I mean, I think all things from a timing standpoint, from a money standpoint, from a winning standpoint, all things are pointed Ole Miss's direction right now. But yeah, I mean, obviously, with Jay Crawford, he changes how you can call defenses. You can put him on a guy and then, spend the other 10 guys focusing on the rest of, defending the opposing offense. He can do everything you want in a corner. Bump and run. He can play off. You can have him trail a guy if you want to put a safety kind of deep and double somebody. I mean, he can do whatever you ask him to do. So, I kind of laughed when you texted me. We're all pretty close here at the Locked On Podcast Network, and so whenever somebody's hosting a player from somebody's former school, we all text the host like, "Hey, what do you know about this guy?" And so when you texted me, you're like, "Hey, is Jay Crawford good?" I don't know what you were expecting me to say, but I can't imagine you can get a much higher glowing review of somebody when you've done that, Stephen.
Yeah, and I put it on the Loom Discord channel, that reaction just to the screenshots, like, this is what my source said about Jay Crawford, and somebody immediately popped in. It's like, by source, do you mean Zach Blackerby?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I just didn't want to blow him up. Yeah. It's like, what's going on? I didn't want to name drop in here, but
Yeah,
it's awesome. Is he more of a, his interception numbers aren't as high as you would expect them to be? Is he a physical corner? Is he more of a ball hawk type guy? What are we looking at?
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think he is a physical player. He can beat you up coming off the line. As far as his stats, like I don't care. Like I don't really care about what a corner's stats are. Over the last few years, Auburn hasn't done a great job of turning the ball over. That changed a little bit, ironically enough, this year. But I think a corner is more than just the interceptions he gets. He wasn't thrown to a ton. Um, and he also continually got tasked with the toughest guys on the opposing team. So I think he's exceptional as far as what he can do. He can do whatever you want him to do. And so I don't know exactly what Ole Miss does defensively, if they kind of put guys outside and bump and run with them or whatever it might be. But whatever it is, we've seen Jay Crawford do it all and excel at all of it.
All right, when we come back, we are going to get Zach's opinion on how good of a day New Year's Day was as an Auburn person. We will get his opinion on that in just a second, right after we hear about this. All right, let's talk about something most men don't bring up, but absolutely should. Stress from work, money, and life. It doesn't just switch off at night. And when it shows up at the worst possible time, Rouget Ready is designed to help you take back control. Rouget Ready is a next generation prescription treatment created to support both brain and the body, so you can feel present, confident, and ready when the moment matters. Rouget Ready combines 3 clinically proven ingredients in 1 mint that dissolves under your tongue so it absorbs really fast. You connect with a board certified doctor online and everything ships discreetly to your door. It's easy to understand why over 150,000 men have already made the switch. Most men are ready in about 15 minutes on average. So you can say present, confident, and in control when that moment is right. If you've been thinking about taking the next step, now is the time. Head to rougetready.com/lockedoncollege. That's RUGIET.com/lockedoncollege to get 15% off your order for a limited time. Rouget Ready. Feel present, feel confident, feel ready. Do us a favor, like, subscribe, and comment on the video. Subscribe to whichever podcast, whichever audio podcast you're listening to, and give it a 5-star review. It costs nothing, but it keeps all of this free. And thank you for making Locked On Ole Miss and Locked On Auburn your first listen of the day. And thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network out there. We couldn't do it without you. You already live your team every day. Now take it up a level and go ad free. Join the Everydayer Club today and get Locked On Ole Miss and Locked On Auburn with no interruptions, a members-only Discord access, and even more, all for just $5 per month or $50 per year. Go to lockedonolemiss.supercast.com or lockedonauburn.supercast.com or check the link out down in the show notes to learn more. All right, Zach, one thing's interesting. New Year's Day is as good of a New Year's Day as I had, which I had a really good New Year's Day.
I bet.
I imagine you're right there with me, because seeing Indiana absolutely thump Alabama and then Georgia losing the way they lost, that had to feel pretty good for you too.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, pulling for a team that didn't make a bowl game this year. The next best thing is like, all right, well, let's just cheer against the teams that I can't stand. And so, yeah, that was Indiana and Ole Miss, hoping those 2 teams won on New Year's Day, and they did. One in a totally dramatic fashion. You guys, I mean, I think Georgia thought they had it, and then Trinidad Chambliss. Goodness gracious, there's like 3 or 4 plays there in a row, Stephen, where it's just like, goodness, I can't imagine being an Ole Miss fan in that moment. So congrats to all of you guys. And then just watching Alabama just get bullied over and over and over again. And then Kalen DeBoer come out and is like, oh yeah, there's not a problem. We just had a bad day. It's like, yeah, all right, man. Yeah, whatever helps you sleep at night.
Yeah, it feels like that was a brick through the window type result. It was pretty bad.
I'd put that up there with the Hugh Freeze saying things are close over and over and over again. It's just like not aware in that situation.
Yeah, nobody wants to hear that you had a bad day when you lose 38-7 against Indiana. And was it their first bowl win of all time or somewhere close to that?
Yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy, just the circumstances with it and all of that. And of course, going 1-7 now, teams with a bye in this new playoff format, going 1-7, and it's Indiana just whooping Alabama to be kind of the exception to the rule. So crazy stuff, crazy stuff.
Oh, well, I think it would be absolutely hilarious well, not necessarily. Obviously, I want Ole Miss to win the national championship, but
They got a shot.
there are several layers to this. That would create a deathbed level regret for Lane Kiffin. The last thing he mutters is about that. I mean, it would create one of those moments. And also, how funny would it be if Frank Wilson got the national championship ring and not Lane Kiffin?
That would be funny. That would absolutely be funny. Yeah, and if you guys are if y'all are able to celebrate that, I'm fascinated to see what all y'all throw Lane Kiffin's way, and also like how much Lane Kiffin forces himself into that discussion and that situation. I mean, you already kind of saw him do it a little bit with a few of those tweets where it's like, all right, only 2 more wins, Ole Miss, and it's like, no, like this isn't you. You left.
Yeah.
You left this. So
Ole Miss could not win a national championship. That's why you left.
It's hilarious. It's
Yeah,
absolutely hilarious. Yeah, I mean, I think even this stuff could impact next year. I mean, just because I think Lane Kiffin and LSU, like I don't see that matching long term. I think it could work in the short term, but especially if Ole Miss sniffs it, and then at LSU, his first 2 or 3 years there, if they don't get as far as what Golding's been able to do with Ole Miss this offseason, I'm fascinated to see what that looks like. And that's relevant to Auburn, right? I mean, Auburn's in this unique spot where they play 4 first-year SEC head coaches next year. 3 of them are at home, and then, of course, they go to Oxford to take on you guys a little bit later in the season. But hosting Florida, hosting Arkansas, hosting LSU, which is going to be crazy. Not as crazy as Ole Miss and LSU, but it's still going to be crazy.
Yeah, that's going to be a movie.
Oh, it is, especially if you guys win. I think most of college football will be pulling for you guys. So I think there's going to be plenty of opportunities for Lane Kiffin to say, like, all right, am I the best first-year head coach in the conference? That's going to be fun to see, because if he's not, Steven, the meltdown in Baton Rouge it'll be crazy.
Yeah. And something came out on the Twitter machines today that Charlie Weiss is being looked at by the New York Giants as somebody to help go up there and be on staff and work with Jackson Dart.
Interesting.
And if both coordinators are not with Lane Kiffin, it gets dicey. It just does.
I mean, politically, right? Everybody's thinking about themselves during the coaching carousel. I mean, you can say what you want, but everybody's making the best decisions for themselves. And I just wonder, in the court of public opinion, which matters, especially in a situation, an industry where recruiting is so crucial, does it make sense to like align yourself with Lane Kiffin at this point in 2026? I think you can make the argument where like it's not as appealing as it was even 2 or 3 weeks ago. So I hadn't seen that, Steven, but that is fascinating for sure. Because like if I'm Weiss right now, I'm taking, and I assume y'all have already hired an offensive coordinator who's going to replace him, but I'm sure he's kind of second guessing things as well.
Yeah, basically what Lane is counting on, and you can't blame him for counting on this because that's the way it is at times, is he is counting on this being a 100% mercenary look at college football now, to where it doesn't matter what he does, it matters how much you're going to get paid.
Yeah.
And I think that for some players, that matters. For anything that's even remotely close, you're probably going to end up losing a lot of tiebreakers. You're going to have to Texas Tech overpay.
Yeah, and I mean, once again, it's just like what's most sustainable within a program, which is what I like about Alex Golish. I think the guys that they bring in are going to be guys that truly want to be there and are still going to be paid competitively, but maybe not paid the most. And so, like, what kind of culture can you build, or is that even the goal? Like, is the goal to build something short term to see if you can kind of blitzkrieg and win a championship, catch lightning in a bottle, or do you want to build something that's sustainable? Ironically, I think he was actually building something sustainable at Ole Miss, and now everyone but him and Oxford's reaping the benefits of that. Um, what's he going to do at LSU? Because once again, like it's an 8-year contract, right?
I think it's 6, but still, that's a long
6.
time.
Do you
He's
think he's the head
guaranteed like
coach?
$90 million.
Yeah, I mean, do you think he's the head coach at LSU in 6 years?
No,
I
no.
don't think I would take that bet. I don't know.
Yeah, and the sad thing is he might be, and this is the one thing that makes me think that he might be. If he has a modicum of success, they're not going to get rid of him. But after this job, there is no Power 4 future for him after the way that all this went down. So he will be back in Florida Atlantic land for the rest of his career if this LSU job doesn't succeed.
Yeah, or does he look at the NFL again? You know, who knows? But yeah, that'd be
And who
interesting.
knew Al Davis was right?
I guess that's true.
Yeah.
I guess that's true.
Yeah. So it should be pretty interesting. All right. When we come back, we will talk transfer portal. I know all the Locked On Auburn people are probably checking out to hear about Auburn's transfer portal. We'll talk a little bit about that. We'll talk a little bit about Ole Miss before we get out of here. This is the Locked On Ole Miss and Locked On Auburn podcast, and it's pretty awesome. So stick around.
It is pretty awesome.
All right, Fridays already feel different during the basketball season, and FanDuel is making them even better. Every Friday night, Zach, before the games tip off, FanDuel is giving away a new way to kick off the weekend with NBA Happy Hour. Sounds like a really cool idea. Basically, what it is your official pregame NBA Happy Hour, a limited time window where special offers can drop right inside the FanDuel app before the action starts, whether it's boost or bonuses or surprises. You can check out all of that. Fridays from 6 to 7:30 Eastern, that has become appointment viewing time. It's easy to check out the weekly special before tip-off, by the way, to make a move before the window closes. The timing is perfect right before the games, right before the weekend starts. It adds a little extra energy to Friday night basketball without you overthinking it. So before tip-off, check out the FanDuel app and see what's dropping on NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 Eastern. You still have time to look. I think Miami is favored by 3.5 points over Ole Miss in the Fiesta Bowl on Thursday. Don't get worried, Ole Miss fans, hearing that. Georgia was favored by a touchdown, and Ole Miss had no chance, and they were a total joke, and all of that stuff going on, and we saw what happened. So we'll see what happens on the Fiesta Bowl, and then the next night you can get on NBA Happy Hour. That's NBA Happy Hour only on FanDuel. It's the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. All right, Zach. Oh, man. The transfer portal start for Ole Miss, it just like Pete Golding does a thing. He only tweets one thing on his whole account, and that is a shark whenever Ole Miss gets a tweet or gets a commit.
Sure.
And it felt like yesterday, every 10 minutes, there was a new shark being tweeted by Pete Golding. And the last couple of weeks for Ole Miss has to be some of the most cathartic stuff after what they went through in November. But this transfer portal, first of all, Ole Miss is obviously spending. And second of all, they have a plan and they've been executing the heck out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, Jay Crawford, obviously a part of that. And I'm sure there is some urgency on Ole Miss and Golding. It's like, all right, hey, let's get some of these guys done because I've got a semifinal game to prep for.
Yeah, I somehow, just like everybody expected, Ole Miss would be the standard bearer for the Southeastern Conference in the college football playoff. Everybody thought that was going to happen.
Yeah. Once again, congrats to y'all. That's awesome. I've got a transfer portal question for you, and you're gonna have to think back several years.
Okay. We lost Zach a little bit, and he's going to ask a question in just a second. But yeah, like Sharif Denson, the defensive back from Florida that showed up, and you know, Maldonado, the defensive rush in from Nevada, 6'6", really, really big time player. I'm impressed to see exactly what Pete Golding can do with those guys. And honestly, if we're going to be real about it, it looks more like 2024 than 2025. There seems to be more high-end signings early on in the process than Ole Miss had a year ago. Zach, I was just telling everybody on ground, you kind of disconnected for a second, but this feels more like Ole Miss going at the transfer portal like 2024 than 2025 when you went after those big name guys.
Yeah. The question I wanted to ask, and the portal's different now than it was at this time, but when you guys originally hired Kiffin, who was coaching at a lower level of competition, how many guys followed him to Ole Miss as far as players? Do you remember?
None.
None. Do you
Nobody
think that
did.
was a level of competition thing, or do you think that was personality thing?
I think that was a Kiffin thing, if we're going to be honest. Kiffin, in my heart of hearts, and what I think, I thought he thought he was too good for that level. And everybody that played on that level, they basically got used for what they could give him. And when he came to Ole Miss, he brought, I think, one assistant coach or something like that, and that was Kevin Smith. I mean, they didn't even bring coaches from Florida Atlantic. So
interesting.
Yeah, it was almost a fresh start. Now, one thing that I'm interested about, both with Galesh and with Kiffin, is Kiffin at Ole Miss and at FAU had Briles disciples putting that offense in. So you got used to the structure and everything of what was going on. Now they're not really out there. Kendall Briles is at South Carolina, which, by the way, Norris Sellers and Kendall Briles is scary. That is a scary proposition for everybody. But I'm curious to see what happens whenever you do not have the Briles to put the structure in this offense for LSU, and potentially what it looks like at Auburn and places like that.
Yeah. So, like, obviously, the reason I asked that is, we're having this conversation early afternoon on Sunday. So, like, I don't know when stuff's going to pop, but, all these South Florida guys are being, RPM'd and crystal ball to follow Golish to Auburn. And I don't know if there's a debate amongst the Auburn fan base, but it's certainly a discussion on, like, how much is too much? Is this a good thing? And I'm sure it's, all about balance. And I do think if there's anything this playoff has shown us is that talent might be more translatable now than it ever has in college football, especially when you look at, the top 10 to 15 guys on a group of 5, or I guess group of 6 roster to the SEC. But yeah, I don't know. That's just kind of been a big discussion that we've been having lately.
Well, a little change of perspective on this is the last 5 years, Auburn has not been particularly good at football for whatever reason. Correct. Which means their roster at the very top has been elite recently, but there's been a fall off, or else they would have won some of those games. If those South Florida guys, which South Florida had a really good team, if those are the guys that are 12 to 22 on offense and defense instead of penciled in starters, you're probably okay, because they're probably better than the depth that you already had.
Yeah, especially at positions
to start, that's dicey.
Yeah, especially at positions where the physicality and development isn't as important. Like offensive line, like I don't know if I want 5, G6 offensive linemen starting, but I mean we've obviously seen what Byron Brown did last year. I mean, productive as mess, and then they've been crystal balled and RPM'd, a handful of their receivers. They may get 3 of them, which is kind of wild. So the tight end, which makes sense in a goalish offense, but yeah, it's just it's going to be interesting to see how all that pans out.
And Auburn fans that are watching this, just remember, the 2 best players potentially in college football this year is a Division II transfer quarterback and a running back that gained 100 yards at Missouri last year. I mean, so you don't know whenever they get into systems exactly how they're going to look. So they might show out. But that's one of the things that I caution people like trying to make the snap judgments on is like, nobody thought anything about Trinidad Chambliss before he got to Ole Miss. And
or Fernando Mendoza. And
Yeah.
like Fernando Mendoza carved up Auburn when he was at Cal last year. But it's just, you never know. You never know. You got to find the right guy in the right spot.
All right. What's the biggest weakness that Auburn might have? What's the biggest want in this transfer portal?
I mean, you need some tight ends for sure. And then trenches. They've already reached out and scheduled several visits from offensive linemen and defensive linemen. I think everything else is going to kind of fall into place. That's the one where you need quality and you need quantity. So there's going to be a lot of money spent there.
Yeah, and on the Ole Miss side, I think that Ole Miss needs safeties. You're going to see safeties pop up, and they're like, oh, that's not very sexy. It's like that and offensive tackles. You might see some offensive tackles end up as well. Anyway, Zach, tell everybody where they can listen to your stuff, man.
Yeah, Locked on Auburn available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. However you consume Locked on Ole Miss, you can also find Locked on Auburn.
Yeah, and it's well worth it. It's one of the better shows out there. You can check me out on YouTube with Locked On Ole Miss and wherever you consume your podcast as well. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Zach, thank you so much for stopping by, and we will talk to you later, man.
Hey, thanks, buddy. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks again for making the Locked On Auburn and Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen of the day, and make your second listen Locked On SEC, Locked On College Football. Those guys were on all the social channels, so check that out as well. And did either of these two shows make your Spotify Wrap? Prove it on social media for a free month of our Everydayer Club. Just tag your National Locked On Podcast Network account on any social platform, and they will drop you a code. Be one of the first to join the Everydayer Club to get your favorite show ad-free and exclusive access to the members-only Discord channel. For those of you on YouTube, we will send you to the first 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. On audio, make sure you find your second listen with Locked On College Football or Locked On SEC or Locked On Auburn or Locked On Ole Miss, depending on where you are. Hope everybody has a good day. We will talk to you. For Ole Miss fans, the biggest college football game in Ole Miss football history is just days away. And Auburn fans, thank you very much for stopping by. We'll talk to you later. We'll see exactly how that looks. Pretty fired up.